Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I'm going to be going through the 28.2 release notes and just giving my first thoughts and impressions. As always, there's a link to the forum in the description below. I'm not doing a read aloud today just for the sake of time, but that said, let's dive right in. So first up, we have some lore, kind of information about the next event. It does look really interesting. We get to see, confirmation on Cosmic Ghost Rider. He's going to be a Herald of Galactus. I'm not gonna lie, this actually makes me nervous. Like, when I heard that Cosmic Ghost Rider was going to be the next champion from, people inevitably telling me, even though I don't like spoilers, it's just kind of part of data leaking. I was, really excited because Cosmic Ghost Rider, lots of potential there, probably a beast of a champ. And then I see this tag, a Herald of Galactus, and I'm just like, man, based on their track record with the Heralds of Galactus, unless they plan on dumping out, a super awesome 5-person synergy that makes all the Heralds amazing, I just can't help but think this Cosmic Ghost Rider is going to be a meme. I hope not. I really hope not, but, their track record does not lead good results. But also, we are getting Red Goblin, which is going to be a Green Goblin persona of Norman Osborn bonding with a Carnage symbiote. That's going to be really cool. I think that should be really neat for the new variant as well, having that extra symbiote, so I hope that he's really relevant there. But also, I've never heard of Red Goblin before. I'm not much of a comic book reader for, the Marvel Universe, and he just kind of looks like a badass, more of a demon-style approach, so I'm really excited for that. I hope the animations really match and have a lot of fire and flare attached to them. So, semi-hyped but tentatively concerned about the next two champions. We get news about Hades Invasions. Essentially, we're going to have a daily quest with 4 difficulties that you'll go in and you'll farm for resources, and then you can take those and there'll be 5 quests, one every 5 days will open, and then you'll do those quests for additional rewards, kind of maximizing both. Means a lot of grinding this month and probably a lot of tedium, but the rewards look, pretty standard. We are getting a limited time arena with the Punishing Arena. I really like what they're doing here. They don't mention it here, but essentially your 1 stars are going to be worth more points than your 5 stars. I think that's really cool. It's a really neat way to incentivize especially newer players, but also give value to the people who have the 1-star rosters. And you can run them with 5 stars if you want, so that doesn't change, but it does mean that those 1 stars, those 2 stars, are going to see a lot of use in this arena, especially if you want those extra Monster Hunter shards. There is a chain of solo objectives, and when they use the word chain, it means, in my opinion, that you're going to have to run them in order. So do be mindful of that. You probably have to do them in order. And then they're kind of based on, the 7 deadly sins. I think is really cool. It's a nice little neat change, just for some extra souls, monster, and hunter crystal shards as well. We do finally get the upgrades to Punisher 2099, and a lot of these changes actually look really good. Some of these things are directly on what I thought was going to happen to Punisher 2099. It is overall a lot more than I was expecting on the changes, but some of these were, legitimately what I thought was coming our way, and that's really nice. They were vague with the base armor and attack rating, so it's tough to say where his damage output's going to be, and it's tough to get a proper evaluation. So if you're holding a Punisher 2099 going, hey, is the buff good enough to rank mine up? Maybe. We need to see how the actual damage output is in-game to really get an idea for it. He does have access to things like heal block with this reduced charge cost on the heavy attack stun. He is going to have potential for some really long stun chains, which will be really nice as well. Overall, we see a lot of changes to the signature ability, the cost on the battery drains, increased values on the batteries that you start with based on sig ability, so you're going to have more access to battery and charge for his abilities. It's kind of a core part of his kit. Overall, slightly increased ratings and attack ratings and armor break ratings and values and changes in that, which means he's going to hit overall a little bit harder, and the specials are going to feel a bit more impactful. All of these are really good changes. It just depends on how big of a change the attack rating is, because if this attack rating is pretty significant, he could become a really good option, especially in the form of utility. A big one being that heal block. The automatic heal block that he has access to is really nice to have. So yeah, kind of just waiting. Unfortunately, I can't say much more than that until I see actual gameplay, but I will jump in with my Punisher 2099 and try to get a feel for him when I can. As far as Act 6 fight updates go, we are actually getting the nerfed across the board for specific fights. My intention is to make a separate video. I want to go through each one of these node changes and overall fight replacements, like the Rogue being replaced with Old Man Logan, and I want to go fight by fight and break it down and then kind of give Kabam an overall score where I like base it on how well I think they did it, like whether or not I thought one was a total miss. For example, I think this Crossbones replacing Biohazard with a poison node is a total miss. I think that that's actually worse than having the Biohazard node. That's just me, and I want to sit down and do it fight by fight breakdown so I can give them a proper score and decide whether or not I think these Act 6 fight updates were legitimate. And I will be excluding, you know, the fact that there are a lot of problem fights that weren't involved in this list. So I don't know if they have more lists coming, probably not based on my assumption, but hopefully they do and I'm just wrong. But I will just base it completely on these changes here because I do know, looking at some of them, it just looks like it's anti-player and it's pro-Kabam, and I thought the whole point of these Act 6 fight updates were to make it so that they weren't frustrating or particularly frustrating to players, and they seem counterintuitive with the changes. I'd almost ask for them not to change it. That's how I feel about it, but I'm going to do that all in a separate video because I think it's going to be kind of lengthy. We do have the Convention Clash with no list of rewards posted except for like a special title, so, and a special profile picture. So I do hope there are rewards for that, and maybe we're just waiting to see it. That maybe isn't like finalized. That would be nice, but the challenge alone does sound really fun. Essentially, it's the daily and grand final boss fights from 2017, 2018, and 2019. And honestly, even if they don't have rewards for these, I'm probably just going to jump in and do them all at least one time just for giggles. So that is fun if you're just interested in fun and exciting things. But I do hope that there's a little bit of shards or signature stones or something there just to make it all worthwhile. And then finally, their bug fixes and improvements. Now, the reason I just want to mention this is the first one is Black Widow Clairvoyant. They updated the info page to specify that Mighty Charge purifies all pre-existing buffs and then they become immune to the new debuffs. This is really important because previously, when you use Black Widow Clairvoyant on Mighty Charge nodes or versus Mighty Charge nodes, every time they dashed in at you, they purified or became immune to all the buffs. And as a result, you got a bunch of power as Black Widow Clairvoyant. You also got extra Clairvoyant charges. You will no longer be getting that, and that is kind of a pretty significant nerf to Black Widow Clairvoyant. I don't think it's the biggest deal. She's not the best Mighty Charge counter to begin with, but that is a notable nerf for her interaction with that node. I think it's pretty reasonable. I don't think that Clairvoyant should have been interacting with that node, but I definitely want to acknowledge it. Some other changes, we do see Ghost. They fixed an issue where Phase would behave like a Purify instead of just removing the debuffs. This isn't like a big deal for Ghost. She still has her anti-damage over time value, but this is really, really relevant for Alliance War Path 9, where purifying debuffs gives the attacker a benefit. Ghost will no longer get that benefit. I believe that's like the hazard shift nodes too. So to be fair, she was kind of already benefiting it, and if you're using Ghost for those nodes, you didn't need the purified benefit because the Furies you're getting from triggering hazard shift and then purifying them for Furies is already insane. I just don't know if there's any pro player situations. Like, there might be pro player situations where purifying a damage over time effect would negatively impact Ghost. The only instance that really came to mind though was Alliance War, and this is a negative for her, but she already blasts through that path, so it's not a big deal. Plus, Stubborn is kind of the meta at the moment, and Ghost is not great for Stubborn to begin with. So, you know, hand in hand, I don't think overall a big deal, but hey, if there's more information and I'm missing something, please let me know. I would love to be corrected, or at least informed on anything I'm missing there in that particular instance. I do love my Ghost. Ghost Rider is finally getting immunity to incinerate effects, which is awesome, and it is perfect timing with the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Now all we need, now the next step is Justice for Iceman with Cold Snap Immune. Who knows, maybe we get another version of Iceman, and then we finally get Iceman with Cold Snap Immunity, but, you know, it's one less immunity effect that just doesn't make sense. I always thought personally that Ghost Rider's immunity, like lack of immunity to Incinerate made sense, because like his fires were technically hellfire, and they're supposed to judge your soul, not necessarily were fire, you know, like, oh, touch him, and that hurts. But I do think it's nice just from like a visual perspective and Ghost Rider perspective in general that he's Incinerate immune. Plus, it's going to give him a little more value. I don't know if this is necessarily going to like skyrocket his value, but it definitely makes him much more relevant as a champion, especially with Incinerate immunity becoming more needed. Some other changes here, not as big of a deal. Some fixes, all things pretty legit. Some whiffing issues corrected. They fixed the Great Power Node description, so it says 3 responsibility passives rather than 100. And they updated Arc Overload 2.0 to specify that it activates at the start of the fight, because if you went into that node, like if it was like Arc Overload 2.0 and Vigor, for example, and you start the fight and then you go for the parry start and it turns out they're unblockable at the start of the fight, there's a bad time. It's happened to me. So it's nice that they fixed that description. Overall, 28.2, looks like we've got some good stuff coming. It looks like it's going to be a pretty busy month, and probably a little more tedious. But hey, it's October. I'm sure Kabam is fully aware about the Cyber Weekend deals, and they're probably trying to hype it with some added player investment on a more routine basis. Overall, let me know if I'm missing something you want to hype about the month. But my, October forecast and September review is a separate video I'll have probably up tomorrow around this time, I hope. Right now I'm just going over the release notes. As always though, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.